Our focus tonight is about Generation X in terms of leadership and the understanding of democratic principle. Is there a gap between those who are in about 64 to 65% of our population in this country, those who were born 35 years ago or 33 years ago? How much of the issues of democracy, they never even saw what is called military rule. Do they appreciate what exactly is going on in our country today, the growing and the building of the democratic structure and architecture in our country? But let me take you and give you some insight on what happened and remind a lot of our viewers tonight about the essence, the figures, the fact, and the concept and the principles behind June 12th. And let me take you through some of this information. So, the historic election, it started with it. It was on June 12, 1993. And we saw the presidential candidate, you remember, SDP NRC. Of the SDP was Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola of the Social Democratic Party and Bashiru Tofa of the National Republican Convention NRC. It was a very important and very interesting election in our history. Then comes the annulment. On 23rd of June 1993, the then military President Ibrahim Babangida annulled the election before final result was officially announced. The decision shocked the nation and sparked widespread protests. Many Nigerians viewed the annulment as a betrayal of the people's mandate. But there was one woman who fought, who stood in the gap when all did not go well, and it was Kudirat Abiola. She refused to be silent. After her husband's mandate was denied and he was in prison, Kudirat Abiola became one of the strongest symbols of resistance. She mobilized support for democracy and demanded recognition of the June 12 mandate. She was assassinated in Lagos on the 4th of June, 1996. So the milestones of the struggle to democracy. These are some of the key milestones. 1993, election was annulled. 1994, NADECO was formed. 1996, Kudirat Abiola was assassinated. 1998, Abiola died in detention. 1998, General Abacha equally died. 1999, civilian rule was restored. Nigeria's Fourth Republic begins on the 29th of May, 1999. And 33 years after June 12th of June 1993 to 12th of June 2026, it's 33 years since the historic election. 27 years of continuous civil rule unbroken is the longest democratic period in Nigeria's history. There have been 5 presidents, 1 republic. Since 1999, we've seen Nigeria's Fourth Republic produce Olusegun Obasanjo, who served 2 terms, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who died in office, and Goodluck Jonathan took over. He won another election in 2011, and Muhammadu Buhari defeated him in 2015, served 2 terms, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu became president in 2023. 5 presidents, 3 political transitions, 1 democratic republic. The democracy's longest streak, since the First Republic we had 1963 to 1966, just about 3 years. Second Republic, 1979 to 1983. Fourth Republic, the current democratic era, has lasted longer than all previous civilian republics combined. The democratic timeline, of course, saw the transition from 1993 to 2026, and it's been 33 years since then. But the symbolism of June 12th, for 19 years, from May 29, 1999, we retained or we celebrated Democracy Day on the 29th of May, which was the transition from military rule to civilian rule. But in 2018, June 12 became Nigeria's official Democracy Day. Well, let's put perspective to it, everyone. The June 12 generation, a Nigerian born on the 12th of June 1993, will be 33 years old today. Many Nigerians under 35 never experienced military rule. For them, democracy is not a dream achieved, it is a reality they must improve. And those are some of the facts behind the principles of June 12. Well, let me quickly I've got a panel today on the program, interesting, eminent Nigerians. But first and foremost, let me get a lawyer, a professor of law, to give us an understanding of what he makes of President Bola Tinubu's speech today. Professor Odinkalu is live for us. He was the former chair of the National Human Rights Commission and is live for us virtually today. Professor, thank you so much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you. Good evening, Sean. Hope you're good.
I'm good. Happy Democracy Day. First and foremost, what do you make of President Bola Tinubu's speech? What comes out to you out of that almost 10 minutes or more minutes of nationwide broadcast earlier today?
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I did not watch it.
But there are a lot of reactions, though, about it, including how the president honored those who are regarded as the heroes of democracy of June 12. Do you think that was the right decision to make?
I read that. I do not sit as a court of appeal over the decisions of presidents. The National Honors Act grants the president the prerogative to administer the national honors system and to award national honors. He's chosen on this day, just as he did last year, to honor some people. And it's a very subjective decision to whom the president awards the national honors. But everybody, I know pretty much all the people I think who are on this list, and in my view, they deserve it. They've earned it. And I've engaged earlier today with some young people, for instance, on social media, who were abusing OSA director, who at the moment is the National Publicity Secretary, I believe, of the NDC, for being on that list. And presumably, well, not presumably, they actually made it quite evident that he should not be receiving the national award or national honor because he is of the NDC and President Tinubu is of the APC. And I think it goes to the heart of the conversation you're trying to convene, because there is an absence of context and history to a lot of this conversation. In 1981, Shehu Shagari awarded Nigeria's highest national honor to Obafemi Awolowo. Shehu Shagari was the president. Obafemi Awolowo was the leader, pretty much the official leader of the opposition, the leader of the UPN. But Shehu Shagari and Awolowo had served together in Gowon's cabinet. That was through and immediately after the Civil War. And as a matter of fact, when Awolowo resigned from that cabinet as finance minister, he was succeeded by Shehu Shagari. They were very good friends, as a matter of fact. But it was not an act of friendship to give Awolowo the highest national honor. It was very much deserved. And I recall that story in order to make the point that I should declare that OSA director is a person very well known to me. He's my very good friend, as a matter of fact. And I know OSA from our days from the early 1990s. OSA nearly lost his life not more than twice over the June 12 question. He was eventually arrested, detained, manacled, subjected to all manner of indignity. And as I explained, if anybody ennobles the national honors system, OSA director does do so. National honors are not awarded for belonging to the president's party. They are awarded for ennobling civics and public service. And if that is the criterion, OSA director deserves it. And as I said, most of the people whom I see on the, irrespective of whatever my personal views or differences with them may be, most of the people deserve it. They earned it because they made sacrifices in the context of the struggle for democracy in Nigeria. But I've got to just end on this note. Do we have a democracy yet? That, I think, we've got to be willing to interrogate. We've got civil rule. Whether or not it's a democracy, I think, is open to question.
And then a lot of people will ask, what exactly is democracy? And what are the elements that makes us know whether or not we are actually in a democracy? What is the difference between democracy and civilian rule?
Civil rule is governed. First of all, I don't think we have sufficient time to go into the details of that on this program. Your time is obviously limited. There is an entire framework that we could discuss about that. But civil rule is government by civilians who rely on appearances of electoral legitimacy. A democracy has got to enjoy a few other parameters beyond an appearance, beyond being run by civilians, and the appearance of rituals, ritualized ballot, periodically. You see, if you were to take the 2023 elections in Nigeria, just under about 82% of all the offices contested in 2023 were decided by judges. In a democracy, judges do not decide offices. Okay? The people do. That's one difference. And if you're going to be deciding the offices through judges, then you've got to be open to the question whether that is the way democracy functions. And by the way, in 2007, this is not the first time, in 2007, 86.35% of the offices were decided by the courts. We've got a problem to address. Institutional capture is part of it. And I pose that question because we've got to fundamentally deal with it.
In your own view, those who experience military rule will tell you that, well, the worst of a civilian rule is better than a dictatorship. But what we experience today, are we gradually, because there are a lot of things, part of it is a transition of power, consistent elections. These are all the elements that shows you whether or not you are in democracy. But are we graduating? Are we improving? Are we developing? Or we are static, in your own view?
So you see, military rule is not full cloth to me. I experienced it very much. I was born into military rule and into a war and into internal displacement. I experienced military rule. I lived through it. I lived in the gutters of Ikorodu Road, doing all of that and worse. So let's get that aside. I also do not desire military rule under any circumstance. But no, I do not agree with the sentence that the worst of military rule or civilian rule is better than military rule. I absolutely do not. I think that is gaslighting people who want to address the problems with civilian rule. I do think the worst of civilian rule is the worst of civilian rule. And we should not create this Manichaeism of thinking that, well, we've got to choose between the worst of civilian rule or soldiers. We do not deserve, nobody deserves the worst of civilian rule. Let's not gaslight citizens, okay? There is something fundamentally wrong with the worst of civilian rule. Let's not make it that, well, if you don't want the worst of civilian rule, then you take military rule. Why can't we get the best of civilian rule? Now, what's wrong with that?
So the question I'm asking, and as a student of political science, there are 5 pillars that give you an inclination whether you are in a democratic rule or not, part of which is the participation of citizens in governance. The other part will be free elections, human rights, accountability, rule of law. So in all of these, and there are more elements if you want to break all of these down, but these are major 5 pillars that gives you whether or not your democracy is symptomatic of a military tendency or not. And that's why I'm asking, for some of you who are, you are a professor, so a lot of things come in context to you. And academically speaking, you like a deeper conversation about some of these issues. But if you want to diagnose the situation of Nigeria today, would you say that we are developing, we are growing? In the last 27 years or so, is our democracy growing or developing?
That's a fantastic question to have, and I wish we had a lot more time to dig into that. Obviously, we don't. But look, in Ghana, the lowest turnout since its return to elective government in 1992 or thereabouts, correct, is 64%. That's higher than the highest turnout we've had in Nigeria. All right? And today, we are looking at between 27% and 31%, and you cannot even trust the numbers that INEC produces. And when citizens are being incentivized to abandon the ballot as a framework for bringing about legitimate government, you've got to ask yourself the question, what is happening? And that's exactly what is happening. The fact of the matter is the average Nigerian does not trust INEC. All right? Why does it not? And INEC itself does not trust itself. Most staff of the INEC, with profound respect, are owned by politicians, put in there by politicians to procure the interests of politicians and protect the interests of politicians. So independent National Electoral Commission turns into an artifice for deceiving the people about what elections are supposed to be like. Now you talk about the elements of elections or democratic government, and you talk of the rule of law. And the opposite of the rule of law could be the rules of law or the law of rule. Okay? Now, when you create appearances of judicial ritual in order to arrive at predetermined answers or predetermined destinations using artifice of legality, is that the rule of law? And the rule of law in a presidential system of government is not exactly the rule of law in a parliamentary system of government, where there is supremacy of parliament. Or indeed in this British system, where there is in fact no written constitution. And the reality is that today, Democracy Day, happens to be the birthday today. The late Chief Justice Mohammed Lawal Uwais would have been 90 years old, right? And that was the last Chief Justice that made an effort to preserve judicial independence. Since he left, there have been two other Chief Justices that tried. One was Aloma Mukhtar between 2012 and 2014. The second was her successor, that's Mahmoud Mohammed. Besides these three, you have a situation in which most of the other Chief Justices in the interregnum since Lawal Uwais have left in scandal. All right? And that is at the level of Chief Justice. And let me end on one final note. Tomorrow, 13th of June, the Court of Appeal is marking its 50th birthday in the village of the President of the Court of Appeal in Shendam local government area in Plateau South. The headquarters of the Court of Appeal is in Abuja, but the Chief President of the Court of Appeal has relocated the 50th anniversary of the Court of Appeal to sit in her village in Shendam, where there is no court, and there are cases going to be heard on a Saturday. That's all I will tell you about rule of law. And I'm not making this up. It's all in a bulletin issued under the hand of the Deputy Chief Registrar of the Court of Appeal.
It's interesting. I know that you're a servant in the Temple of Justice. I mean, saying this looks so much like your pain about what is going on. But what is painful today will be that there are 35-year-old, 33-year-old, 30-year-olds, 25-year-olds who are living in an illusory Nigeria. They are the larger percentage of our population, but they do not believe in the physical and the geographic space called Nigeria. They do not even experience military rule. They don't know what it is that is military rule. They don't even appreciate democracy. They don't even want to hear about governance. They don't want to hear about democracy. They wouldn't even want to go to vote on election day. The fact that they are 18 and some of them have experienced 2-3 election cycles. Not to talk of the ones that are going to be 18 in the next election. There's so much illusion in the heads of our young people today. And some of them who are probably watching, or may not. I won't be surprised if 1% of them, of the 64% are watching, because they are totally disconnected about whatever that is going on in this country. Where do we begin to build a nation around those people who are in the majority, who are aloof about this nation and its democratic journey?
I'll only say this. I think we need to be careful not to patronize young people. Young people are a lot more discerning than we give them credit for. I'm over 55 now, so I'm not sure I'm quite young anymore, although a lot of my elders look at me and say, young man, your time will come, right? Okay? But look, I think young people are a lot more discerning.
You are still one of the future of tomorrow.
Exactly. I could easily lead the youth wing of a political party in Nigeria. But look, the young people are not people present them as the problem of the country and all of that. The fact is that people voting with their feet are more than just young people. I have my friends who are in their 80s, quitting Nigeria to go and die in the United Kingdom or in the United States. Okay, and actually buying tracts or vaults to be buried in anywhere from California to New York to London and parts of the United Kingdom. All right, those are not 80-year-olds are not young people. These are people who have been through every phase of Nigeria's evolution. All right, now we've got to ask ourselves the question why people who have built mansions. I mean, I've got senior advocates of Nigeria telling me they're about to jackpot. All right? And these are not senior advocates who cannot afford things, obviously speaking. So let's also not make this about young people. And now, other issues, I think we failed young people in not giving young people history, an understanding of the content. And that's why when I write, whenever I do, I try to anchor it on what happened previously and to make the connections, the intertemporal connections, because we've got to give young people content. And the story I told you now about Obafemi Awolowo, National Honors 1981, most people do not know of that. Those of us who have that content have a duty to make it accessible and available, no matter how controversial that is. I think there is a duty of intellectual honesty to sustain the curiosity of young people about the country. And let me end on one note. I think in your chapeau, introducing the program tonight, you talked about an absence of collective ownership of the Nigerian dream. Is there any such thing? When did we get together to construct the foundations of the Nigerian dream? What does it look like? Maybe we should start talking about how we build that Nigerian dream. So every succeeding generation will feel not just a sense of ownership of it, but also a sense of obligation to contribute to reshaping and perfecting it. And I think that is what is missing. That sense of intergenerational partnership and solidarity in constructing a society. In 1953, when the ANC met in Polokwane, they reduced everything to one sentence. South Africa belongs to everyone who lives in it. Can you say, Sheung, that Nigeria belongs to everyone who lives in it? And my hope would be that we can construct a country around the promise. If we can construct a country around the promise of Nigeria belongs to everyone who lives in it, we would have started making progress to connect younger people to the older people without forcing anyone to abandon the country or the project.
Well, I don't know where we're going to buy a dream for Nigeria if you argue that there is none. But our national anthem talks about such. And I hope that the legacies of our heroes past.
Which national anthem? The old one or the new one or the abandoned one or the one that will become?
The one that we'll sing presently. And even the old one talks about the commonality of the dreams of this nation. And I wonder if that does not exist in reality, how do we find one? Thank you so much.
You see, this is exactly the problem. If you can junk your national anthem with no conversation, no discussion, no civic engagement in less than 24 hours of parliamentary process with no hearing, it tells you that there is no Nigerian dream that is owned by anybody. Because no country deals with its national anthem with the degree of irresponsibility that was brought to that project of changing our national anthem. And by the way, the first one, when it was changed in 1978, went through exactly the same process. It was military diktat. This second one has gone through civilian diktat, but diktat all the same. A national anthem which embodies the promise and dreams of everybody will not suffer that kind of fate. Precisely my point.
When next I see you in Nigeria physically, I will make you sing that national anthem, whether you like it or not. Professor Odinkalu, thank you so much indeed for your thoughts tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sheung.
Thank you so much indeed.